You are tuned in to a Fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight, my guest is Nancy Redstar. Nancy Redstar descends from Redmond, Van, Shepherd, Parker, Cherokee bloodlines on her mother's side. She is the author of several books, the Star Ancestors Trilogy, Life with a Cosmos Clearance, and UFOs No Threat Official Eyewitness Testimony. In 2004, Nancy became the executive producer, director, writer, and hostess of her upcoming feature documentary entitled Star Ancestors. It is slated for theatrical release and worldwide distribution in the winter of 2012. Nancy also directs Willow Spirit Productions and Willow Spirit Press, which were created for the purpose of documenting and distributing the archives of the testimony of world indigenous peoples and select members of the military-industrial complex. She has created a library of text, audio, video support documentation for educational seminars, lectures, and workshops around the globe. She has been written about in numerous magazines, including Nexus, UFO Magazine, Fate, New York Magazine, Elle, Shaman's Drum, Magical Blend, and was on 3 episodes of Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. Her speaking engagements include the International UFO Congress, Bay Area UFO Congress, ConspiracyCon Conference, World Universal Expo, the Roswell Museum, Orange County MUFON, the Aztec UFO Symposium, Omega Institute, and she has appeared on Coast to Coast with Lee Strieber, South African Radio, KRZA Hawaii, Contact Talk Radio, Sirius Satellite Radio, and Atlantis Rising. And at last, she has appeared in various video, television, and film productions. So, let's welcome this amazing guest to the show now and find out more about her. Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Good evening. I'm well. How are you?
Good. That's quite a resume that follows you. But you know, when I was watching your YouTube videos, I was just totally taken by your energy and your intent. And so I was thinking it might be a good idea for us all to hear a little bit about your Native American heritage and how your spiritual path has brought you to where you are now.
Well, my YouTube channel has quite a bit has some of my family, my relations on there.
Uh-huh.
And my mother was a descendant of Cherokee, the Matthews family, the Vans, the Parker. Bonnie Parker is a relative of mine, actually, of Bonnie and Clyde. She was a Cherokee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her dad was Cherokee, and she was in security. She was a poet before she became a bank robber. And the reason that she became a bank robber, her and she met up with Clyde, was because of the Federal Reserve.
Ah.
And they failed to even mention that in Bonnie and Clyde, and they don't mention she's Cherokee, and the Cherokee don't like the fact that she was Cherokee and she was a bank robber. That's part of the reason why I'm not affiliated with the Cherokee Nation.
Ah.
A couple of my relatives were who didn't follow the party line. They weren't Christian, and they robbed banks, and they were very rich and landowners. And but as far as my uncle over in Oklahoma, I have some relatives from the family that were on the walk and then ended up, of course, through the Trail of Tears over in Oklahoma.
Mm.
And Bonnie Parker stayed in my uncle's place. He was hiding her out for quite a while. And my cousin is you'll see she's up on my YouTube site. Her name is Shona Bear Clark, and you'll see some of the videos of her. I have some clips from the movie. We're editing now.
Oh.
I've been working on it for a long time. People don't realize writing, and I didn't realize. It's a good thing I didn't finish the film before now because I didn't know what I was doing. You get to a point where you realize what's important and what's not, and that takes years. It really does. It's not like writing a book where you have a certain 6 months, you got a contract, and you have to have it done. Well, with a film, it's very, very different, and it takes a long time. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult process. Plus, independent film, documentaries, you have to also raise your money, and that takes time too. So I started this film, and the director was a very well-known Choctaw director Phil Lucas, and he did The Broken Chain, and he also was involved in that Native American series that was on, Turner? I think it was a Turner production. And he passed away during the course of this process, and so I had to take it on to direct it because there was no point in trying to get it somewhere else. And so I had to learn the whole process, and I've taught myself limited editing as well because you kind of have to you have to multitask when you don't have the kind of funding where you build a team. So I started this project after I was teaching American Indian Society, which was a course under the history department at Bard College back in Annandale-on-Hudson. And I used to go over to Woodstock quite a bit, and then I had moved over there because that's not far from the college. And I was at a meeting once, and a producer was there from Canada, and he said to me, well, I'm putting on a huge event in Roswell. It's the 50th anniversary of the crash. How would you like to produce all the indigenous part of the event? We have we're going to have a global telecast from Australia and Peru and North America, and you can line up all of the indigenous elders to speak. And of course, it was a huge event. We had great sponsors. We had Pepsi and Frito-Lay and Budweiser even.
Wow.
And then they had that event over there in California that was a black operation where those people allegedly took cyanide, but they were actually killed.
Right.
That was not a mass suicide by any means. I think that that event happened to stop this event because they didn't want 150,000 people in a huge rock concert. We had U2, and we had Sheryl Crow, and we had the guys from the, not just the Chris Carter. We had just an amazing, because we had a marketing company. Well, the producers, the executive producers, had a marketing company in New York that had done the Michael Jackson Pepsi deal, and so that brought in the big sponsors for a huge rock event, and they didn't want that. The powers that be did not want an event on Roswell, and they didn't want that kind of attention globally because we were having satellite global telecasts from from Australia and from Peru. And so after that event, we lost our sponsors. They didn't want to be involved, of course, in where you'd have 150,000 people, and then some of them might take that recipe. You know? Yeah. And so I had started already organizing and interviewing people, and the information was so, and I had been working in a academic, scholarly, position at Bard, teaching history, and so UFOs. I was not a UFO enthusiast at that time. I wasn't even thinking about it really, and so when the event crashed, I was in Roswell scouting locations. I moved. I had to go out there, ahead of production, and then we lost all our funding, and so I decided to continue on because the information was so fascinating that I was getting. And I decided to do a book, a series. It was in the beginning just one, but it turned into three, a trilogy. And I was fortunate enough I did get Random House as a publisher, but when I turned in the manuscript, they refused to put in the artwork, which didn't work for me.
Right.
There was no way I could do the book without, because it has a tremendous amount of artwork.
Oh, right.
And so that's what makes the book in many ways so beautiful. And so I went on and went with Inner Traditions in Bear & Company up in Vermont.
Oh, so isn't that Barbara Hand Clow's company?
Well, she wasn't with them when
she wasn't then? No.
Yeah, they bought Bear & Company, which in a way it was kind of too bad, because that really changed the publishing house. I mean, I liked it better before. Yes, they did. They bought Bear & Company, and it had gone into bankruptcy, and they did an auction, and they bought it, and so that added other people, and I don't know, it's quality or quantity, and so I was lucky that I got in when there was just incredible quality. It was just very one-on-one. When they expanded it, it's hard for a small company to keep up with that many authors, but I liked it better when it was more traditional. So anyway, they did a beautiful job with the book. They are actually now doing a second edition, which I'm very happy about. Yeah. On the first book, they did two books, and I'm going to publish. I'm going to be publishing the third one to come out hopefully simultaneously with the film.
Well, now, what are some of the most significant revelations or findings that you think the public would want to know about, especially given? I mean, you could probably go on for hours about that, huh?
I had no idea what I was doing when I started. Just like everything is a learning experience.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'll just go interview these people about, about UFOs, and I had no idea how deep and profound and really deep.
The first star
I mean,
way back of stories that are told and retold and shared for generations.
And
the Star elders and the Star family that came here.
Oh, sure, and of course at that time, it was 12 years ago, it was still very taboo. That was something that was kept for the clan society, and it's kept for the ceremonies, and it's kept for the rituals, if it had been kept at all.
Right,
because, I found that I had to go down to Central America and Mexico to go to the source, where the information was much more accessible, because it was so hard to get to find elders. They're very special people that would know about that information and be able to really talk about it. Just like now, there's very few.
Well, they've all been killed off.
Well, they're all gone.
Right.
They passed away, a lot of them.
Yeah.
I work, Clifford Mahuti, that I was on the History Channel on Ancient Aliens with, is a good friend of mine, and he speaks very candidly about the beings that come into the kivas, into the rituals, and that they brought the rituals to them, and I can't really elaborate on Kachinas because I'm not initiated in that society, but he's somebody that you should interview.
Okay.
And so I found that there were very special people that really knew a lot. And I was lucky that I was directed. They just fell on my path, You can't make that happen. It's
no.
It's either meant to happen or not. And,
right.
And sometimes I wonder if there's not supposed to be a film, because there's so much junk out there about this subject. It's not that there's not enough now. There's too much.
Right.
And there's so much deception and misinformation and leading people astray that to put a beautiful film that has that sacredness out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to get contaminated in the media. I mean, I could never get this in mainstream media. They won't put Indians in, Indians are blacklisted from mainstream media.
Oh, jeez.
I'd have to launch this film, off a website and overseas because
Right.
I can't get it here.
Right.
And I've talked to a lot of people, and they won't touch it. They will not touch it. If it isn't about the boogeyman and scaring people and aliens, I don't even believe in that word. Actually, that word alien comes out of the Tavistock Institute in London, which is a mind control program. And what it means is it's actually alien. Not alien. It's A-L-I-E-N.
How interesting.
It's a lien on your mind, meaning that they have control of your mind with the programming that they set forth.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of horrors came out of the Tavistock Institute, didn't it?
Well, I don't think they've stopped.
They're still going, yeah.
Yeah, well, all the UFO information that is released to the public has to be approved in London first.
Wow.
Everything.
Wow.
Nothing comes out, which may be why John Mack ended up getting killed there.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, John Mack, the head of psychiatry at Harvard, that was doing all those abduction investigations and passport. He got hit by a Mack truck in London. And
it sounds like something they would do.
Right, because he had a change of heart.
They use symbolism and numerology and the rest of it to.
I know.
So he would be hit by a Mack truck.
Yeah, he had a change of heart about what he learned because the abduction thing is just a big bunch of BS.
Well, weren't you talking about this in one video that it's largely done by the Black Ops groups to...
It's the NSA, it's post-hypnotic subliminal scripting.
Yeah. And that's part of that agenda has to do with weaponizing space and weaponizing everything here on the planet.
Exactly. That's what's really behind,
and
that's what is behind that missile defense shield.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because I was just listening to one of my subscribers had put up the Art Bell interview with the two Hopi grandfathers that was done 12 years ago.
Wow.
And they're talking about the technology that the purifier, because another thing that's interesting is I didn't make up my name. My family is Red Man, but I was married to a Crow man whose family were Red Stars. They were Absaroke, and so that name I got because of the marriage.
Uh-huh.
And so I kept the name when we divorced, but the Red Star comes after the Blue Star, Kachina. The Red Star it's the purifier.
Oh, right.
And in this interview that's on YouTube, they talk about the Red Star is the purifier who has the high technology, who can take care of everybody. They take care of the merchants of the earth that are committing genocide and now on the indigenous people of the world.
Yes. Yeah, on all of us.
Well, now all of us, yeah. And
we're all considered part of the slave race.
True.
So now the Red Star hasn't arrived yet, as far as I can tell.
No.
I mean, if it has, I missed the train.
My understanding from the Covenant of Iron Mountain is that their ultimate esoteric, and if you'll excuse my French, I call it a wet dream, is to seat Satan on the holiest of holies, on the Temple Mount. They have practical reasons for taking over the whole Middle East and the Asia, the parts where they're beginning, they're continuing now with Iran. Right, but their esoteric occult dream and motivation is to control Temple Mount because they want to seat Satan, because they're Satanists. That's it's Skull and Bones is a death cult.
Yes.
It's nothing more than a death cult, and that's what their goal is in an esoteric, occult realm. is to seat Satan on the holiest of holies.
Yeah.
Because then they will control. They want to wipe Jesus, the name of Jesus, off the face of the earth, and not that the Israelis believe that Jesus was the Son of God. They say the Messiah is still coming.
Uh-huh.
But most people believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and they equate that with Bethlehem,
Right.
and Temple Mount, and so they work on multiple layers. They don't just work on the practical oil and centralization of power through a one-world government. They're also working in an esoteric realm.
Oh, yes. And that may be the larger area that they work in.
It really is.
The invisible area,
It's the primary driving force behind everything else is a byproduct, or you could say it's, of gravy.
Integrated into that esoteric agenda.
Yeah, well, they have to. They have to have war for their profitability.
Right.
Right, and then as far as oil, there's probably plenty of oil on the earth. I mean, but it's a control, a power and grab,
right.
and they want to centralize power.
And it's also the blood of the mother.
Well, that too.
And we know
very much so.
We know that free energy has existed for not just 60 to 100 years. There was Tesla, if no one else, but the Egyptians had it 5,000, 10,000 years ago.
So this goes back to Kemet. This goes back to the ancient Egyptian. I have a teacher who is has a Commission university, and one of the things I've learned from him is the melanin. Okay, why is it the dark people? Why are they going after the indigenous people and the people who have the melanin? Well, the melanin blood, which I heard from sources that are in Libya, is that they were taking, not only were they selling body parts from Libya this past, but they were also accruing a tremendous amount of blood, because the DNA of indigenous people and the DNA of particularly American Indians is a different DNA. And that DNA has codes in it that are 12 to 22 strands. Whereas the people who are in power, what they have is money and weapons, but their DNA is 6 strands. And so as we go into this vibratory frequency, into this what the Mayan call the fifth fire and what the Hopi call the fifth world, because we're actually literally going to be going into this world as we see is falling, is fragmenting, and it's falling away. But we're going into another world, as Indian people always say. We've been through 4 worlds so far, and we're emerging from the 4th world into the 5th world now. And there's only special people that can go into the next world. Your vibratory frequency has to have the light harmonics in order, because there's a frequency that's going to be coming on this planet that's never been here before. So you can't go into the next world with an M16. That's one of the reasons why they don't care if they destroy the whole world, because they're not going into the next world. Right. They literally will meet the purifier, and before that happens, and will disappear. They will literally be disappearing, I believe.
Huh. Well, yeah, you're not the first person to say that. So, there are numerous versions of this, but the bottom line is that if you're vibrating at a low frequency, which includes death and murder and rape and the whole rest of the horrors that have been going on this planet on a global scale, then you don't have the necessary frequency codes to raise up into the next level.
Exactly,
and incompatible.
And so if you create a world of hatred and anger and violence, just look at what, a lot of people don't, but if you see what they're putting out now on television, the morals are completely gone.
Gosh.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And so you degrade the morals and corrupt. It's all about corruption of the mind, really.
Yes, it is. I agree with you.
It really is. And so,
it's almost as if they're looking for those that they can control. Once they're removed, they will have fresh souls to rule over in some other realm. I don't know.
well, I don't think so. I think they will never.
That may be a dream of theirs, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, from what I understand, from what some of the elders have said, is that they will be stuck in that. They will be stuck in a time warp, never to have the opportunity to evolve, because these aren't cycles. It's really about our evolution.
Right, right.
And so that's why they are culling.
Mm-hmm.
They're depopulating now.
Mm-hmm.
It's really obvious. I mean, it's very obvious to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, the chemtrails is just one example of maybe 50 or 60 things we could probably name right off the top of our brains.
Yeah, like this last week, they dumped 2 million oral rabies vaccinations. They dumped them from the air.
I heard about that.
In Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not to even speak that they had to pull tissue canisters from Bed and Beyond.
Yes,
they were radiated.
Radiated canisters. Isn't that amazing?
So the other thing that you see, the inside of the Earth is occupied. The inside of the Earth is like the hollow Earth is like the inner Earth. When we come and go into those worlds, we go inside the Earth. Which there are other worlds. There's suns and there's water and there's the people may, like they did before, have to go inside of the Earth because of the radioactivity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe, is that that will happen again for a period of years, where people the remnants will have to go inside of the Earth until that radiation. It's because the radiation is a lot worse than people realize.
Much worse. Much worse. And then there's much that we haven't been told that's been released, underground and through seas. I mean, they're just letting stuff go left and right.
Yeah.
And then the really scary part is that all of those nuclear facilities are degenerating at such a rapid clip because the sun's energy is beaming higher frequencies and it's melting the plastics.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that movie Andromeda Strain.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were in this underground bunker, and they had found a thing from outer space that started to destroy the seals in the labs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's happening with the with the nuclear plants, and that's going to be when the real disaster hits, when the gaskets start to go, because you can't replace those. It'll just be one meltdown after another.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that many of those are intentional.
Well, I think so. Because they've known. I mean, they have all the ancient texts.
Yeah.
All of the Egyptian texts, all of the Mayan codes. I mean, they have all those books at the Vatican. They know
what was
prophesied and what was seen.
And they're the ones that are funding many of the black projects.
Exactly.
I talked to one person who talked about Project Pegasus that was funded by DARPA and the Vatican.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I'm sure that's just one of thousands of projects that are ongoing.
Well, of course, people don't realize too that the Pope before this Pope worked for I.G. Farben. He was a cyanide salesman for the Nazis.
And they distributed AIDS in the aspirin, I believe they did. They distributed the AIDS vaccine accidentally, unquote.
Well, I don't think it was accidental, but
no.
I could say that these beings that we're talking about that do this are like the vampires of consciousness. They feed off of us.
Right. Because they're not connected to source, obviously.
Yeah, they aren't going into the next world either.
And so it's kind of a scorched earth policy as far as they're concerned.
It's a scorched earth policy.
And you can see that everywhere around you.
I know.
And it's hard for all of us who live here on what was supposed to be a peaceful planet to find out what's really going on the planet.
Yeah.
And that we're living at the effect of a bunch of super wealthy insider psychopaths.
They're really vampires is what they are. But, I was also told by the Cree elders that that people have to, and this is what's so difficult, not to be compassionate and to have compassion for. It's hard to see what they're doing, like in Libya. The crimes against humanity in Libya are so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just continuing. It's just like massive.
Yes.
And then not to be filled with the depression and the fear and the sadness and all that. At the same time, we have to build our vehicle to get out of here.
Right.
And that vehicle has to be complete love.
Right.
It's like a Merkabah. That's our vehicle. We have to build that love, because you can't get out of here if you don't have that Merkabah, what they call that vehicle.
Right.
Emanating love and light, because you won't be able to travel.
We won't have the frequency to take off.
Right, and so the more they do this, the harder it is.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not a New Age person, so some people maybe say, well, you could just ignore it and meditate or just pray, but I get really angry when as I see this happening, because being a journalist, I'm documenting it, I'm watching it, and it's hard. It's so hard to to get in that place of love sometimes.
Oh yes.
It's not easy.
Well, one of the ways that I use to look at the forces of limitation, somebody likes to call them, is that we contracted with them to force us to evolve. And so this is like the stretch of the rubber band, and it's pulled so far back now that when it snaps, we will be catapulted in the other direction. But it's hard to see that when you're just looking through the lens of a three-dimensional world that's linear, and where everybody believes that their senses are all there is, because that's how they've been programmed, and that's all they can see, with fluoride ripping apart the DNA. And I just found out just a couple of days ago that Prozac and several other antidepressants are filled with fluoride.
I didn't know that.
I never knew it, and I followed this thread, and they said, oh yeah, Prozac is full of fluoride.
Well, did you know that because I harvest red clay and elemental gold. There's flakes of gold in red clay.
Oh.
And the red clay, it's used up at the Sundance up in South Dakota. It's also used in the Kiva. The men who are underground right now, like they went in right after Christmas, they're underground for 3 months. January, February, March, they stay underground. That's it. They're in there. They drink red clay. Now, the red clay has the gold, and the elemental gold takes the fluoride out of your pineal gland.
Oh. So
elemental gold.
It takes the calcification away.
I drink it, and what happens is you start having the most unbelievable, I don't know what to call them. If you go on YouTube and you put in pineal gland sonata, or to that effect, you'll see these unbelievable. Well, I'll go look now. You see these unbelievable music, and then you see these. It's almost like the Mandelbrot series.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, well, if you go in there, you can hook into a lot of people who are putting out the pineal gland activation. That's really what it is. It's,
right.
Okay, you have to get the fluoride out of there.
Well, distilled water will remove it.
Really?
Yes, I've been studying this for the last 4 or 5 months, And I have documentation now that drinking nothing but distilled water will flush out the fluoride and the inorganic chemicals that are in the glands, especially in the pineal gland, because it attracts it the most.
Okay, so the pineal gland is the third eye, and that's the one that we need to be utilizing to access and build the Merkaba.
Yes, exactly. And
but with the red clay and the elemental gold, if you go into YouTube and you put in pineal gland activation,
okay,
or pineal gland activator, there's a whole bunch of beautiful, unbelievable relaxation videos.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, that will help you activate your pineal gland, but you have to get the fluoride out.
Oh, yes, because that just crystallizes in it. And basically, when you're X-rayed, when your head is X-rayed, if you are used to drinking normal water from the tap, which has dozens of horrendous chemicals in it, and not to mention fluoride, the pineal gland looks like a bone because it's calcified. It's not dead, but it's just held in a kind of stasis or lock.
So how much do you drink?
I drink between 2/3 and a full gallon of distilled water per day.
Unbelievable. I never heard that. I'm going to do that.
Absolutely, and I'll send you some information on it privately, and you can do your own research and find out for yourself. But when people start finding out that they can literally cleanse their bodies, and it has to do with the positive and negative charges.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the medical industry will tell you that you can't do it for longer than 30 days because it'll wash out all your organic minerals. Well, it doesn't wash out the organic minerals because it can't.
Yeah.
It washes out the inorganic minerals that are supposed to be digested by plants. And if you notice, they put inorganic minerals in vitamins and supplements, and like I said, fluoride is in dozens of things that I didn't even know it was in.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention things that are processed that use water. So cereals, are processed with water, and the water contains the fluoride and all that junk. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's no wonder we're dumbed down and we can't think straight.
Yeah, well, Hitler knew that,
Of course.
He was the one that brought, of course,
And his people are still working in underground facilities here in America.
They brought them over here.
Yeah, they're here.
I got to tell you a funny story. I first came up here to visit Dennis Hopper. I was living overseas in Europe, and my boyfriend was an actor. He was a well-known French actor, French and Italian. He was from Corsica. Anyway, he was invited to see Dennis. Well, he got put in jail, so I came over here to visit. And I stayed up at Dennis Hopper's house. This was many years ago. And so I got to know his family, and, Dennis passed away, and he was buried up here in Taos, where I am. Well, I went to see his cousin a couple weeks ago, talking to him. I was getting some moccasins or something. He has a great store here. And he was telling me, and I live up in Taos, New Mexico, and he was telling me, well, one time Dennis and we came out of the bar, and we'd been drinking because, of course, Dennis, he was really heavy into that.
Oh, yeah.
Back in those days.
Yeah.
And he said, and we decided we'd go bust in on one of these Scottish Rite Lodges here.
Oh.
And so we busted into this place and opened up the door, and he said there were 30 men sitting at a table in full Nazi regalia.
Oh, yeah.
Full. Now, with Project Paperclip, and then we got Los Alamos here, and you've got, they were all up in New Mexico.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They have underground facilities where they've been breeding their own race, and, of course, they're in all the major corporations, and I'm pretty certain Monsanto and NASA, and I mean, you just look around and you can see the hand.
They're running this country.
They are running it, yes.
They started the CIA, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Because George Bush, the one that is the former president, he was not a blood son of Prescott Bush. He was actually
from Germany, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Schiff.
Yeah, there's a horrific story on that, and that whole story is detailed on one of my guest sites. Alex Putney has a site called humanresonance.org,
Oh, okay.
And
I'll write that down.
You can read the whole story, and I can't remember which PDF file. It's all free. And I was absolutely blown away at the technology they have. They have stealth technology. They have gold reserves. And he said there's even an underground facility where the Nazis are allowed to go into the gold rooms, but they have to be in their underwear, and they can just roll around in it and play in it and probably have sex.
Well, of course, you think about it. Think about the gold. See, the gold activates, it repairs the DNA.
Yeah.
Not only does it clean the pineal gland from it also repairs DNA. And that's the big problem they got, is their DNA. They're the wrong strain. It's been that way for thousands of years. It's the same interbreeding, interlocking families.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And that's why they created the alien agenda, the boogeyman, the abduction. The cattle mutilations are done by our own government. The star beings do not need a vehicle to come here.
Precisely. So when people say that there are ships that are, they're about 6 months away, I just laugh because, those aren't any ships I want to meet.
Those are back engineered. I mean, I've got some old. Actually, I was just invited to speak at the Pythagoras conference that's coming up in October.
Oh,
and it's going to be in Kentucky, Indiana, but it's the Pythagoras conference of science and consciousness, and because I have some 1938 handheld Third Reich footage of the craft they were building, because they had them up and running by 35. They had those vehicles up and running. They recovered one out of Brazil in 1931, and they back-engineered it.
That was a long time ago. They had all that stuff in the 30s, including the atomic bomb.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I think there were vehicles coming here. I think they're. I mean, they do have vehicles, and they can. I mean, look at the Vimanas. I mean, the Mahata Bharata.
Right. How many hundreds of thousands of years ago was that?
Yeah.
And
they had a nuclear war there, because there's a great interview with Winston Churchill's nephew, Sir Desmond Leslie. Have you ever seen that? It's on YouTube. You just Google, just YouTube Sir Desmond Leslie. He wrote a book. He was involved with the Damsky, but he was the one that talked about the Vimanas, and I published some pictures of them from India that I got that were from 1927 in one of my books. There are vehicles. But 80% of them, 90% of them, 90% of the ones they see are ours, and 5%. You can only believe about 4% of what you hear in the UFO community.
Right.
It's about as much truth as there is.
Right. I pretty much agree with you. Yeah. So the Star Wars technology is not, I'm guessing that it might be, part of it has to do with just the pillage of funds and technology, and it could be used for something else, but it could also have something to do with the concern over those elements that are positive that they don't know about.
Well, they want to go to battle with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why they're putting in this alien, that's why Werner von Braun always warned people, he said, he told Carol Rosin, who was his spokesperson for the last few years of his life, he said, it's going to come down like this, he said, the first threat is going to be Russia, and it's a lie. The second threat is going to be an asteroid, and it's a lie. The third threat is going to be terrorism, and it's a lie. And the fourth threat is going to be an alien threat, and it's a lie. He said, and you have to go tell people, you have to warn people that that's how it's going to come down, and the last trump card would be the alien threat. Because they want to do battle with... As far as I know, from what the Cree elders told me in the lodges, they have come in there, and the beings, have put on their military uniforms. And one of the things that they, if they contacted the governments of the world, which I believe they have in the past, about about the atomic bomb. That's why. It wasn't about abducting and trading this and all that crap.
Right.
It was the fact that they were concerned about the nuclear issue, and they told the governments of the world, if you don't tell the people that there are other civilizations out there, we will contact them individually, and they have been doing that.
Yes, and I believe that there will be a much larger revelation about this year.
Well, I hope so, but from what my understanding also is that from the elders is that this is going to go on for a while. It's not just 2012. It's going to 12,
right,
13,
right.
14, 15, all the way up to 2019.
Maybe. Yeah.
I can't imagine it taking that long. I mean, it's so painful.
Well, as a collective, we have the ability to make this happen quicker, but it requires a lot of people awakening and being willing to move out of denial, release their own resistance and their own darkness, and see the truth. Because a lot of what's fueling the dark side, as far as I can tell, is our own darkness and our inability to look at it or even contemplate it.
Yeah, and buying the Madison Avenue propaganda.
Right. And there's everything you look, everywhere you turn, it's all, we're being sold a bill of goods. There's nothing that's a natural organic process unless you actually walk into nature barefooted and commune with the elements, the devas and spirits and fairies and elementals that are there. And until we can communicate with the life force, the spirit of life, like the indigenous elders and the indigenous natives.
Well, that's why they tell people get out of the city, and they say unplug from the wires, too.
Yeah, the wires. Oh, my God. Interference waves, massive.
Yeah.
And electricity is an interference wave. Tesla had technology that was wireless.
I know.
But you couldn't charge for it, so J.P. Morgan put a snuff on it.
Exactly, and that's the same thing with the electromagnetic propulsion system. It doesn't wear out, it has no moving parts, and you can't tax it. Exactly.
And then, of course, now you've got all these technologies used for the militarization of space and of the weather. Weather wars going on all over. Now you can't tell if an earthquake that's destroyed a country is Memorex or real or what is it?
They just had an earthquake in the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, it was a scalar threat. Yeah, and from what my understanding is from the elders who have said that they are not the ones that have come in with the uniforms on said that they are not pleased with the HARP program at all. They're going to take it out.
Oh, good.
That's what they told them.
You're talking about people who are with limited consciousness who have an us-them mentality and are destroying everything they possibly can get their hands on in order to be in control. But that is an endless game that goes nowhere because there is no thing that you can control. And you are destroying yourself when you destroy some aspect that's around you. So,
well, again, I don't think they care because they can't go into the next war.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
They don't have the DNA.
That's right.
They don't have the melanin.
Yeah, unless they figured out some way to genetically modify it. They're genetically modifying everything else that we
Well, they're drinking blood.
Well, right, yes.
That's why they drink the blood.
And eating hearts right out of the body.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be laughing about it, but I mean, what can I...
They really are vampires of consciousness,
They are.
They want to upgrade their consciousness, but they have to do it. They can't do it in any other way than an artificial intelligence.
That's right. That's right. And they have artificial intelligence, and they're using it against us.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better because the prolonging of the experience is allowing or enabling people to wake up.
Right. Right.
If everything turned around tomorrow, 80% of the population is still asleep.
That's right.
It always shocks me to see, people who are actually pleased about killing.
Oh, my God. My jaw still drops when I hear that.
I know.
No matter how
many
many
from
times,
our country.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, well, when you think of the mentality of people who go to football games.
Exactly, it's the same.
Yeah. So, and I don't blame the people that go there. I don't blame anybody really, but to a large degree, it is the program that's running in this matrix of control to keep everybody divided and fighting about everything. Mm-hmm. Games, sports, movie stars, the whole thing. It's all designed to keep us separated.
Yeah, well, that's the CIA strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you think the CIA was started by the Nazis.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and they're still in control more than ever.
I think so.
Well, they were moved over here and installed into high positions, and you can see the hand of the Nazi movement everywhere you look.
But they're good deceivers. They're very good at,
Oh my gosh!
Look at them. Look at the ones that are up there now running for. I mean, they're all creepy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the Bush family is one of the most insidious of them all. But then
Barbara Bush is the daughter of Aleister Crowley.
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that. Jeez. And then, you've got the whole satanic movement with royal families. I won't mention any names. But
yeah, no, they're all in it together.
They're all in it together, and that ties into the mafia families. And
yep.
They're all running the poppies from these other countries. So, I mean, really, when you see all these fights, they're not really fighting they're fighting fake wars. But there is no war against drugs. The war is against the humanity because they want us to buy the drugs, so the various underground agencies ship them over here to us. And,
right.
And America hasn't awakened yet to the facts of what's going on.
I know.
So, and the politicians...
Well, some may never.
And some may never, right. Yeah, I mean, we're speaking to a very small audience, I'm afraid. The choir.
The remnants.
The remnant, yeah.
I keep on asking the elders, well, how many people are going to be going into the next world? And they keep saying, very few.
Well, hasn't the harvest been pretty slim? I was reading the Law of One series, and I don't necessarily give that a great deal of credence, but they said that there were previous harvest periods, and the harvest of souls between the positive and those who are negative has always been slim. Just at the last minute, there are only so many people who have been able to make the cut. And now the one good thing that I see coming is that the kids that are coming in are coming from a higher level of consciousness, and they're coming in with an intention to do certain things that will raise the vibration of the planet.
Yeah, well, they're sure trying to kill them too.
And they're trying to.
I mean, all those 18,000. Almost 18,000 deaths from Fukushima in the United States, and they're all under 1 year old.
Oh, gosh.
And it's from the radiation, so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's just the start.
I know.
This is just the start. And we haven't even seen the end of the oil spill yet. And then nobody's gotten to the bottom of 911 yet. They're still dicking around with that.
Yeah, it's...
we're just we're playthings in the hands of the gods, so to speak. Only
it's really
they're not
important to try to, that's why they say get out of the city and get to the high ground. I think it's really important. It's going to be really important this year.
Yeah.
And in the next years coming, I feel bad for people who live in cities.
Oh my gosh, they're going to crumble.
Yeah.
It's going to be hell. That will be hell.
I know.
When the financial world starts to fall apart and everybody realizes at the same moment that it's a house of cards, and they don't buy it anymore, then there's going to be run on gas and food, and then there's going to be fighting, and I mean, it could be very ugly.
I know.
It could get very ugly in the cities. And it could get ugly out in the country, too. I want to give you a chance, since we only got a couple minutes left, to
30 seconds.
Share on an uplifting note and give us...
Yeah, really, you have to run the course of the...
Yeah. Our next show will be more uplifting, I promise.
Well, it's really important. People say, oh, don't be so negative. But it's not about being negative. It's really about being honest.
Yeah.
It's really about honestly looking at what's really... in the matrix, what makes the matrix move? Because if you don't, you can look but don't stare. Okay,
Right,
you've got
right.
to look at it, you've got to recognize it, you've got to know what's going on, but you don't
That's
have to live in it.
That's right. That's right. Very good.
But if you don't know, the thing about this time is the polarities of that negative and that positive are merging into one frequency.
Hey, listen, we got to go.
NancyRedStar.com, and the YouTube channel. Just Google and put Nancy Red Star in.
All right, Nancy. Thanks a million for being on tonight. I had a great time with you, and
Me
I'll
too.
have you back again.
Okay.
All right.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody.